Hi, gamers and developers, and welcome to another vlog. Today's vlog is gonna be remote, so we're trying a new format and we'll see if you like it. So on today's vlog, we will talk with the team two of Sunofes, which GDT participated, and we have two members here. We have Julia Pinheiro and we have Diogo Pires, which will introduce themselves in a little bit. So, Son of S is an online game jam focused on visual novels and story based games. The jam had a duration of about 2 months and a few days, and the game made by the team is called Near the Sea. So, if you want to introduce your guys a little bit, you can start, Julia.
Hi. My first participation here in a vlog. My name is Julia. I work here inside game dev as a mainly as an artist, but also dabbling in other types of tasks such as like script writing, a little bit of sound design, and other kind of stuff like that.
Okay, Diogo?
Hi, I'm Diogo. I am a new member in GameDev, recently passed from newbie to member. And I've entered GameDev as a programmer, even though in the past few gems I've done some art parts and programming too. But in this gem, I focus more on programming and script writing.
Okay, so you guys already talked a little bit about the gems you did before, but do you know how many gems you've been before this one?
Um, I believe I've been in around like 4 or 5 jams and one long-term project inside of game dev.
I think this is my third or fourth gem,
Okay,
I believe.
so kind of balanced. Like you guys said, Julia, you worked as an artist, right? Yeah, Diogo, you worked as a narrative and programmer. So, for the development of the game, how did you guys come up with the idea for the game?
Uh, What we did actually is something that I've done before in other gems that have a theme similar to this. They're usually visual or very story-based gems. We have a few early meetings to decide who's gonna take on each role, who's gonna focus more on which whatever part is needed inside of the game's development. And after that, we have a brainstorming session. Essentially, because the story is going to be the most important part of the game, we have at the very least two brainstorming sessions where uh, any member can bring any number of ideas that they have that they think they would be interesting to explore within the context of a visual novel, and then based on the interest of the other members or whatever we think might suit best the interest of the jam, we go along with the idea that the members agree with.
Okay. Um, so this gem was a little bit different from normal because you had around 2 months, like I mentioned before. Normally, gems used to be smaller. So my question to you is, what was your strategy to develop the game in 2 months? Because sometimes, because it's so much time, we can become a little bit lazy or distract ourselves.
Uh,
I think for long jams, communication is the key part. Because, as you were saying, if you start getting lazy and you do nothing for 1 week, it seems like it's nothing because you have 2 months. But in the end, it's like 1/8 of the time you have. So it's actually more than you might think. So you need to constantly be having some meetings every week to catch up on what everyone's doing. In this case, what Julia is doing, because we're only two. But yeah, communication is the most important part, and have little deadlines around every week.
And I agree so much with you. It's true that communication is the key, and we've already had some people in the past vlogs mentioning that. So it's very good that you reinforce that because it's true, and I believe that so. So regarding the development and process of during the game, what did you actually learn throughout the jam? both as an artist, slash as programmer, slash as a narrator?
For me, I actually learned a little bit more uh, what's concerns about the programming. I'm actually already familiar with the engine that we worked on. Um, and it's been interesting that we had a little bit more time so we could learn a few extra tips and tricks that can help make a game look more polished or look a little bit more unique. Something that can give the game that extra level of detail that's going to make it look interesting. I think that was really fun to learn, and I'm glad we had a little bit of extra time to learn that.
Uh, as a programmer, I learned a completely new engine, RenPy, which is a visual novel oriented uh, language or engine. And I thought RenPy only had like text boxes and placeholders for images, but in fact, I dug some subreddit posts, and it actually has a lot more things that are not very well known, which was very fun to look for and to use. When it comes to the script part, I learned how to do a script with Julia, which is much more talented than me at that, but it was very interesting to learn that part as well.
Okay. So I'm glad that you guys mentioned the engine, because normally here in GDT we're used to use Unity, and you guys use RenPy, so it's a new experience. We'll talk a little bit about that in a bit, if you want to. So for now, I'm gonna ask you, what would you do differently had you known how the gem would go?
Uh, Quite honestly, at least on my part, I don't think we necessarily needed to do anything different. Despite us having a very small team, like basically just the two of us, I think we managed to organize ourselves with the time that we had and with all the tasks that we needed to fulfill. And I feel like we pretty much covered all bases. So I think it ran pretty smoothly. I don't particularly think we had any major problem that we should have wished that we've done differently, at least on my part.
Uh, yes, I'm with Julia. We did everything we wanted to do, basically. There was nothing missing, really. We did the art, the sound, the script, the game, everything we wanted to put in was there at the end. And we had time for everything, and I think that was due to the communication we had.
Okay, that's great to hear, because your team is such smaller than what we're used to, and you were only two members. So I'm glad to hear that that was the case. So my next question to you both is, what were the worst moments during the jam?
I feel I believe we've mentioned this before, like, but I believe with other members that we had a small problem right at the very early stages of the jam because supposedly we would have three members in our team and not just two. But unfortunately, our third member didn't seem to be able to continue the jam with us. So we did have a couple of problems like scheduling meetings and trying to figure out what was happening with this third member in the very first days of the jam. So that might actually give us a little bit of the feeling that we lost a bit of time to organize that.
Yeah.
But after we realized that this member apparently wasn't going to show up and we should proceed with the jam with just two of us, I feel like we managed the communication and managed to balance tasks between the two of us pretty well. So I think that's the only major problem that we had during the course of this jam.
Okay. What about you, Diogo?
Yeah, definitely the initial parts with all the complications around our third member, because we didn't have any information, so we didn't really know what to do, and we were just kind of waiting for a while.
Yeah.
But eventually, everything went smoothly when we got the green flag.
That's very nice to hear. You guys had a little bit of bad luck in that aspect. I don't think I've ever talked with a team that happened that. So I'm glad that you bounced back and you managed to work with a team of only two members. That's very nice to hear, and I congratulate you for that. And following the theme of moments during the jam, what was the best moments during the jam?
Ooh, the best moment during the jam was definitely the last week or the two last weeks, because when we have such a long jam with a visual novel game, you need to do a lot of script writing and program that part of the script. So we spent like 1 month on script, and that's a long time. And then you start wondering if you will gonna make it in time, and then the art starts coming in, but it's not fully done yet, and there's 2 weeks left. So are we gonna really get this? But then everything suddenly comes into place, the sound, the art, and you start seeing things more lively, and that was definitely the best part for me.
Honestly, to me too, like it's not the first visual novel jam that I participate in. So I knew that there was gonna be this moment where after you stop working on the script that you feel like you have nothing done because the script really does consume a lot of time.
Yeah,
But I I knew that closer to like the end of the jam, or at least at any moment past finishing the script, everything would come together very fast. But I had this experience before. I believe Diogo didn't. So I remember even asking him like if he was nervous that he might feel like the jam was gonna end and we didn't have everything ready. But I knew that this moment would come, that everything was gonna come together very fast, and I always found that moment really enjoyable too. So I do think that the last week or the last 2 weeks are a very important moment because that's when you actually have the opportunity to see the entire game put together, and you realize that actually you've been doing a lot of work even
yeah.
when it feels like you haven't.
So that's such an interesting opinion because what I get a lot is that people love the brainstorming part of the game making, but I don't think I've ever heard or someone mentioned that they love the last week because the last week normally are so stressful. People always hate the last week of delivering a game. So that's a very interesting opinion and a very interesting point and take because I do agree with you. I think joining everything together and seeing how you've been working so much is really one of the best parts. Even if you have so much stress associated with it. So yeah, that's a really nice take. And my next question to you guys is so you are artists and you are programmers, but in this gem you assumed the role of a narrator. So what was that like? Because yeah, I don't know. You mentioned that you've been in some visual novels before, Julia, but I don't know if you ever worked as a narrator. So what was like that to you guys?
Actually, on my part, usually when it comes to visual novels, I usually work as the narrator. I usually double as an artist and a narrator. So I did have experience writing a script, specifically a script for Renpai. There's many ways that people write scripts for visual novels, depending on what engine they're gonna use, or even just like their preference on how they like to write. But I had written scripts for Renpai before, and I tried to give Diogo some pointers or like give him at least the example of the structure that I like to use. So we could at least speed up the process a little bit because script writing can take a lot of time.
Yeah,
But I feel like the major thing when it comes to script writing, when there's multiple people working on a script, is just making sure that if two people are writing two different parts, that when you put those two parts together, they look like they belong in the same story. And I think that worked out pretty well between the two of us. We try to share the script equally, between us throughout the process because Diogo was also very interested in trying his hand at script writing, and I think that ended up working pretty well for us.
I agree with you. I think it worked pretty well. What about you, Diogo?
As the newbie script writer of this gem, it was great having Julia around to kind of guide me on the structure. Actually, I'm participating in another jam, and we are doing kind of a visual novel, and I've been using the same structure again because I really liked it. And with Julia as a kind of mentor uh, on that part was really nice for me to learn how to properly script write.
Okay, so that's great to hear. So you guys talked a little about how you like the end results. Would you like keep developing on the game?
Um, we actually talked a little bit about this, that we feel like we have a pretty good end product. Like we like everything that we've done, and we feel like we covered all bases. The only thing that unfortunately seems to be the task that's always neglected when it comes to visual novels, which is the sound. There's always a lot of focus on the script
Yeah,
writing and in the art, and the sound seems like it always gets a little bit forgotten. And unfortunately, the sound is an area that we were very interested in, Diogo specifically. There was a few elements that we wanted to try out for the first time, and we didn't really have the chance, and maybe we'll return to it and explore like a little bit of voice acting or a little bit of like original composition to include in the game, but it's not strictly necessary. Like we feel like we closed the jam with a pretty well-rounded game as it is.
yeah. What about you?
Um, I agree with Julia because as I think we've done a really good job on this jam, we we think we kind of completed a product and we have a complete game in the end. The only thing that was missing or that we could have explored was the sound part, which I was really interested in doing something like soundtrack. But unfortunately, that would take a lot of time to learn and to produce something that could fit the whole game or some parts of the game. And it was a very long game, so it was harder on that part too. And the voice acting parts, it was an idea we had in the middle of the jam that I don't think it's necessary. Maybe it would be interesting to try it out and see if it works or if it doesn't. Um, but it's not necessary for the game to feel complete.
Okay. So I'm glad that you guys feel the game is so finished because normally it's very difficult to manage to finish the games. So I'm glad to hear that. So regarding the gem itself, what were your thoughts on the organization and maybe the team itself, and what did you think of the gem?
I think the team, as a team, we organize pretty well, even if we are a very small team, just the two of us. But I think our internal organization went along pretty well. And as far as the jam goes, when jams are a little bit longer like this, they usually give you a month or like even 2 months like this jam. It does feel a lot more chill. It does give you certainly a lot less stress. The jams, they're like take the course over like 48 hours or
Yeah,
something like that. So especially for like a beginner's jam, I feel like this could be a pretty good option, or a jam where you want to explore a lot of areas that you have never worked on before, like sound, script writing, stuff like that. I feel like a jam that's longer is perfect for that. But I think that the only downside of a jam that's sort of like this one, which is something that's also pretty common with visual novel jams, is that there's no particular ranking system. So if you're the type of person that like likes to see a certain kind of feedback, or you like to see the ranking system to give you a sort of idea of where do you place amongst all of the other submissions and all the other participants in the jam. That's something that this jam is not particularly good at. But if you don't feel like you require that sort of thing, if you just want something that's gonna help you like develop your sense of storytelling, it's not gonna give you uh high amounts of stress because of
Yeah.
like the very small deadlines. I feel like this type of jam is really good for that.
Um, I think the best part of this gem was the long period of time and how chill the gem is. As Julie was saying, it's a very long gem, and you have all the parts, all the creative parts that you can try something on. And when you have a team with two people and there are so many things to do, you eventually try some new things. And if it's a long jam, you have time to learn those things and to experiment a little bit with them. So I think I've grown as an enjoyer of visual novel jams. Um, because I can try to do sound and write script at the same time and do my job as a programmer in RandPy or in other engine. So I'm very proud of our organization in this jam as a team, and it definitely is my favorite jam I've done here in GameDev Técnico.
Oh, nice. That's so great. So, and that's also great feedback because we normally don't have a lot of people interested in visual novels. So I'm glad to hear that you guys like that, and in the future we'll add more visual novels, knowing that. My final question to you guys, and I know you already mentioned and talked a little bit about advice, but my final question is advice for the people watching this video. What do you have, and what do you think people should know?
When it comes to, I'm assuming that we can talk a little bit more like specifically about visual novels because, like you said, like it's not particularly common. People are usually very focused on games that like have a lot more gameplay and mechanical aspects of it than like genuine narrative and script writing. But I don't think people should disregard narrative and script writing as something that doesn't matter because actually it's a pretty important part of many games that we like. So I do think that if you're someone who is interested in game development or someone who is interested in like making interactive experiences of any kind, I do think it's important for you to take at least a little bit of time to try and figure out what exactly do you think is interesting in the games that you like that are more focused on story, what exactly about those stories that you like, because that's what in the at the end of the day makes a game even more compelling, like is the aspect that's like it has a nice story that you feel like you connect to. And if you can take some time to learn how to create that for someone else too, I feel like that always adds an extra bit of value as you in your work as a game developer.
I think the best advice I can give for someone doing a jam, a visual novel jam, is to write the script first and finish it before you do any other thing. You can write the script and do programming on the side and start doing arts in the middle, but finish the goddamn script first, because if you have no script, you have no game, and that's pretty much case closed. So yeah, write the script first, and then it starts to worry about the art and how you're going to present the game.
Great advice from both of you, especially the thing about the script because I agree so much. I've had same experiences in the past. So you guys back at home, you heard you heard it here first. Um, Advice from a former visual novel jammers of this month. So I think that's all for today. So thank you guys for coming. And thank you for being watching back at home. As always, you can search our itch.io. We'll have near the sea there probably when this video comes out, so you can check their game. It's a lovely game. It's awesome, and you guys, I'm sure that you will enjoy it. As always, keep updated with our social networks. We'll have it as always added in the video. So that's all for today, guys, and keep in watch for the next vlog. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.